Today we are going to make half sour pickles. And these are so tasty, they're a little bit lighter in salt. I did a few different variations to determine what the best method was. This first one I did is higher in salt, not half sour, but without any flavor, and I just wanted to see what a standard or control would be like. The second batch I did a half sour. We used about 3 teaspoons of salt in 1 quart jar that used about 1.5 to 2 cups of water to fill. And the flavor was perfect. This one, I did, again, the control amount of liquid, the control amount of salt. So this is definitely higher. The flavor is not as good. I prefer this one, but I also noted that the fermentation duration was a lot shorter. We've talked about this before. With more salt, it takes longer to ferment. So my half sour pickles were ready at about day 2, but I pushed them to day 3 and they were perfect. These ones at full sour, or standard pickles, at about a 5% concentration of salt, were at a pH of 4.5 on day 2, and then they didn't get down to a 3.5 or 4 pH until about day 3 or 4. So they weren't even ready as soon as these ones, but once they were ready, when they get down to that pH below 4.6, where they're in that safe zone, then I found them to be a little bit overpowering. So these ones were really good, and we're gonna show you how to make them right now. So here I have all the ingredients to make half sour pickles. Super simple. We are going to use a quart-sized jar that would hold about a pound of cucumbers. So I have pickling cucumbers here. I do notice with doing this several times, pickling cucumbers do work out better than something like an English cucumber. They just hold up better. It's what they're intended for. So about 1 pound of pickling cucumbers, 2 to 3 cucumbers. So I washed them and wiped off their spines, or those pokey ends that you feel. And then because of their size, I am going to quarter them. Now, you are welcome to half them. I just picked these today, and so they're ready to go. If your cucumbers are a little bit older, like you've picked them days or weeks ago, then I would suggest before you cut them, soak them in an ice bath. Don't soak them in an ice bath, however, if you've already cut them. I find this to just make them a lot. The seeds fall out, the flesh is a lot softer. It actually does the opposite in my opinion. So only soak them if they're whole still. Cut off both those blossom ends. These blossom ends are very bitter. You can eat one of these and taste that, and you really don't want that as part of your fermentation. And as with all ferments, the smaller you cut them, the quicker they will ferment. So you want to keep them at a quarter size or so. This bigger one, I went 6, but in either case, I probably won't end up using these smaller ones. So let's go ahead, and I've measured out my ingredients. This is a really basic recipe. You can use a ton of different things. Standard recipes will use things like mustard seeds, of course, dill, peppercorns, garlic, bay leaves. There's a variety of flavors that you can get. This is just a very basic one that really lets the cucumber shine through. So I've already measured my ingredients. Now we'll use about 2 cups of water, as I've mentioned. So I have 3 teaspoons of salt measured here. So I'm going to divvy up my spices, put a little bit and layer them. As you can see, I have the fronds of the dill as well as the flower. This often people will say is a lot more pungent. It's more of a dill flavor. You're welcome to use the flower or just the fronds. And I like to set my jar on the sides so that you can layer them nice and efficiently. So here I'm going to pour my salt in, and we'll go ahead and whisk this until it is dissolved. Okay, let's keep packing our ingredients. As you can see, I have smashed my garlic, but I've also sort of chopped up some. We'll toss these in between. Okay, now that I've made my brine solution, I'm going to pour it over. So here I just have a baggie of what would be the same percent brine solution. So there's a little bit of salt in this along with water, and I will push that over top. So there you have it. Those are half sour pickles. Really easy recipe. So the premise here is half sour is 3.5% brine solution. A brine solution is when you add water to make the brine versus when you do a dry solution, or excuse me, when you do a dry brine, that is when you only use salt and you rely on the vegetable and the water content of the vegetable to be pulled out to create that brine in order to cover your veggies in full. So a half sour pickle is about 3.5% salinity. So you have about 3 teaspoons of salt and 2 cups of water, which is what it takes to fill a quart. If you wanted to go a lower salt at a 2%, then you could use less salt. A standard pickle or a standard salinity is about 5% for a brine solution for ferments. So that would take you up to about 4 teaspoons of salt. The less salt you have, the quicker a food will ferment. So make sure to keep an eye on this. This will only take, in my opinion, 2 to 4 days. 3 days was about perfect. And the flavor and the crunch is so tasty. So go ahead and try this. Really easy, simple way to harvest and preserve your pickling cucumbers. And it also, of course, feeds your gut because you create those good microbiomes based on the variety of microbes that you have. And the great thing about making your own home ferment is that you're using foods from your garden, you're using your hands, and of course the microbes that are in my space are also going to contribute to this ferment. So there's a lot of good that can come of that. It's not a controlled area like where you get a purchased ferment from, which really has its benefits. So go ahead and let me know what your favorite variety of spices are for cucumbers or for your half sour pickles, and leave some comments below. Thanks.